A few other things here. Wow, that was a lot of content that we shoved into an hour. Boy, some of you have got some pretty cheeky things to say, by the way, about the topics to cover for next time. It never gets old. Never gets old. It's quite a bit that's there to see. In fact, I'm going to hide those now because now that I've said that, somebody will type something in, and that should not be seen by others. That should not have, no, we don't want to see those pieces. Well, thanks, chat room. There's just some good pieces in there. Boy, talk about international calls. So we did get another call. Let's go to the phone lines. You've been holding for 4 minutes. The 937 area code. Are you there, caller?
Yes, I am.
Yes, you are. What's your name and what's your question?
My name's Garrett Schumacher. I just had a quick question. I've been having some internet connectivity issues this morning, but I was just curious. I still have your email that you sent out to me this morning, so I was curious if I could just click on that link later, and could I access the show that way? I know it wouldn't be live anymore, but archive.
Absolutely. There's two ways to do this. One way is when I'm doing this live, as we're doing this right now, it is live through YouTube Live is the service that I use, that Google has, that YouTube has. And one of the nice features of this is they have this DVR functionality. So you can go, even right now, you can go all the way back to the 15 minutes before I even started the show and watch the pre-show and watch it all online. You should be able to jump around to those pieces. What's also nice about that is when I finally do end the show, when this study group is done, I do the after show and we turn it off. I stop the stream and I click a few buttons on the YouTube side. It processes the video, but in a few minutes, it makes the entire video available in this sort of off-live mode, this offline mode. So you can watch it there as well. Of course, it still has kind of the 15-minute gap at the beginning. There's no good delineator between the main part of the study group and this after-show casual Q&A thing that we do. So what I usually do at that point is I have a local recording of it, and I grab the recording and I edit out the gap at the beginning. I cut out and do just the study group, and then I create an after-show link, and I put those all on one page. And that usually takes me a day or so to finally get it all done and get it uploaded to YouTube. But then I change all the links, so when you click on those pieces, it then takes you to the edited version, so you don't have to sift through all of the pieces. So yes, you could right now watch it. You can watch it after I'm done, and then I'll even have an edited version up later.
Oh, okay. So that'll take a couple days on the Professor Messer website then?
It usually is up on by 24 hours, sometimes a little bit longer, depending on what's going on in my world. I try to get it out there as soon as possible, certainly by Monday.
Okay. It's all good then. Okay.
Great. Thanks for calling, and thanks for watching, and good luck with that internet connection.
Okay. And you still have no plans for a Security Plus
as
of yet?
Someone had to ask, and it was you. I would love to do a Security Plus study group. I would love to do one for Windows 7 or even other topics that maybe even I don't have a course for, a formal course for. I think it would be great. The challenge I have is really just about time and motion. It's about finding enough time to be able to create content that would be good enough for a study group, because these slides I put together, it took some time to get all the content put together, get the questions from everybody. It wasn't overwhelming, but if I spend all of my time doing that, then I can't create new content for other things. So there's a balancing act I have, and this is not my full-time job. This is something I do on the nights and weekends. So I sometimes don't have the flexibility to know what I'm doing Monday through Friday. So right now, I don't have plans for a Security Plus, but I would love to. Great content, all the video to do something like this and just answer questions about the Security Plus. It's just really, really all about time right now.
That's very understandable.
Well, thanks for asking, because that's a little more encouragement. Every time somebody asks, it puts a little nick in some bone that's in my shoulder or something, and I'm like, oh, starting to really feel the pain now. People are really wanting that, and sometimes that's a good motivator.
Okay.
Well, thanks for calling, and thanks for watching, and I'll get that replay up as soon as possible.
Okay, sounds great. Thank you.
You're welcome. Take care. We have another call in from the 920 area code. Are you there, caller?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. What's your name? What's your question?
Hi, this is Jeremy. So I just got my Network Plus certification, so I just want to say thanks for all your help.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And so in one of my computers in my house, it has a wireless NIC, and it's going to my wireless router, and it just has a really bad connection. So one of the things that I was thinking of is it might have to do with the wireless channels. So in my router, I statically set it to use channel number 6, but at that computer, I don't see an option in that wireless NIC to decide what channel it's going to use. So I don't know if it's just the model of that NIC that it just doesn't have that feature to choose a channel and it just automatically picks up whatever channel it wants, or if that's just kind of the way all wireless NICs are, where they just automatically pick up whatever channel they can get.
It's kind of hard to find a good wireless NIC that gives you complete control over everything. There are some wireless NICs that allow you to get in, and it's really specific to the driver, that allow you to get into the details of the driver and modify everything there could possibly be. But that also creates concern because the way that most wireless NICs will work is they're looking for the SSID across all frequencies. They find yours, and then at that point, they're locked into the frequencies that are being used by that particular wireless access point. So you don't have to even worry about configuring it on people's workstations. As long as you configure it on your router to be a certain channel, everybody's going to communicate to you over that channel or over that frequency set. So that's a good part, I guess, that you don't have to worry about. The problem, of course, is trying to figure out what could be creating a problem for me with distance. Is it noise? Is there other wireless around me that is creating problems for me to be able to communicate? And you might want to grab some of there's a lot of wireless tools you can use on your workstation, on a mobile device, that will pop up and graph out for you what else it can see out there in the world. Wireshark can do this. There are, what's the one that I was using? Was it Insider? Insider. I think it used to be free. It may not be free anymore. There's something called Insider for the home. I don't know if it's free or not. They have different versions of it. You'll be able to pop this up and see it on the replay or live in just a bit. And they have a home version that can pop up and do a scanning of all of the wireless connections that are around you. I have another one that I use. What's the one that I use? I have it in my video, and of course now I've forgotten completely what those are. But those tools are great.
In your video, you had like this really cool spectrum analyzer thing, and I was like, oh, that looks really neat. And I Googled it, and it wasn't freeware. So I was like, well, I don't have enough money for that right now.
There are some that I use for free. I'm looking for the specific one. Somebody in the chat room might beat me to it to see what those are. And of course, the ones I'm using, I'm running OS 10 on my desktop. You may be running Windows on yours. So just poke around and try to find wireless network scanner free. I bet you're going to come up with tons of options. Why don't I do that?
I will do that.
Sitting here, since I'm here, instead of telling you to Google, I could go see what options are available out there and see which ones. Insider comes up. Wi-Fi Stumbler. I don't know if Stumbler has really been up to date lately, but that may be another one to look at. It used to be called Nets. There's one Net Stumbler and Wi-Fi Stumbler. You might want to see if those are still inactive. Those haven't been updated in years, though. There's a lot of other ones out there that have. So scan around. That way you can bring up a list of what's out there. Net Surveyor's another one. Wi-Fi scanners, quite a bit. And see maybe somebody else. It's actually quite remarkable when you pop these up and see everybody else that's around you and see all of these different access points that are popping up. Now, just because you see them show up in a list doesn't mean that they're directly conflicting with you. They may be so far away that your local signal strength is overwhelming or overpowering any signal strength you might get from another device. Or they might be so close that they are creating a conflict, and then you can try channel 1 or channel 11 or try moving things around. Some of the latest firewalls or wireless devices also will automatically find the quietest set of frequencies. If you're running 802.11n or even better wireless access point, you may find that it has functionality in there that will auto find the best frequency, and you may want to try that as well, because it's going to listen for you. It's going to find the quietest one and just lock into that one. They can also dynamically change. So if somebody was to bring up another access point, they can change to a different frequency set without you having to change anything on your workstation. So that may be something to try as well.
You bring up a great point there, because when I first went into my configuration, it was on channel 5 for some strange reason. So
okay.
All I did, but yeah, I know that was weird. So all I did is I moved it over to channel 6, and as we know, that only goes 5 megahertz spectrum. Yep. I never thought of going to channel 1 or channel 11 to get totally out of those bleed over spectrums. So I'll try out channels 1 and channels 11 and see if those make any difference.
That's the easy one. You don't have to even load any software. Just try the other channels and see if you're getting any better throughput through those pieces. And I'm trying to think, there used to be a list somewhere that showed what all the defaults were for the different manufacturers' access points. It probably doesn't matter much anymore since there's so many different kinds, but I know that mine came defaulted to channel 6, which meant that everything in my neighborhood was channel 6. So I immediately changed mine to 1. And I have in my house 2 access points on the same SSID with the same configuration, but I separate those, ones on channel 11, ones on channel 1. So I know there's not going to be a conflict between those two.
So for the other people doing the network study test, that means that your configuration is an ESSID, right?
Well, the SSID configuration for me is set up for the standard SSID on my piece is the same name on both of those pieces. But the ESSID configuration, or specific to the device, I guess you could consider it that way too, but the MAC addresses are going to be different between those access points. I keep the configuration exactly the same, so that when I move from one side of the house to the other, it jumps over with this exact same SSID name, but the BSSID wherever I strongest access point picks it up, and I'm able to use it.
Okay. Well, thanks a lot for taking my call.
Thanks. Appreciate you calling in. And oh, wait, I had a question for you. You said you just passed the Network Plus, right?
I just did yesterday.
Okay, so now I get to ask you a question for the people that are listening. And of course, you don't want to talk about specifics of the exam, because that would be a violation of your agreement you signed when you started to take the exam, that you wouldn't talk about specifics. But if you had to list 3 types of very high broad topics that people needed to study for their Network Plus exam, what 3 things would you recommend they do?
Okay, so this should be fresh in my mind. So the number one thing I think the number one thing I think that people should absolutely do, and this might not be a topic, but they should definitely go to your GTS Learning and use some of the live simulators, because I had 8 consecutive live simulations in my test, and that's what really, really threw me off. And it was the test is an hour and a half. I probably made the mistake of spending 40 minutes on the 8 simulations, so then I had only 50 minutes to try to go through the remaining 70 questions. So I really got hung up on those simulations, and
that's a lot.
They were so difficult. Yeah. So the rest of the test, the multiple choice, I was able to go through those, and I found that I either absolutely knew the answer, or I had to make an educated guess. My test had quite a bit of subnetting on it, so I had to know CIDR block notation, and it had quite a bit of security stuff on it, so I had to know the difference between a stateless firewall versus stateless firewall, a network intrusion prevention system versus a host-based intrusion prevention system. So those are the kind of some of the things that I came across yesterday. Know
your devices and those types of things. Somebody last week gave a very good, I thought was a very good tip. I guess it could be a good tip. It might be a bad tip depending on how these performance-based questions are graded. But he said skip over all the performance-based questions, go to the multiple choice, take all the multiple choices, then come back to the performance-based. Multiple choice questions jogged his memory enough so that he could do a lot of the performance questions. Do you think that would be my concern is that you might not have enough time to come back to performance based, and they might be worth a lot of points and you might not do well because of that. But what do you think?
No, I think that's actually the greatest way of doing it, because what happened was when I was in the middle of doing the performance-based questions, and I was thinking, oh my God, the test, I'm bombing this test.
Right.
I'm not doing good at all, and I was just burning up all this time. And then when I got to the multiple choice, I'm like, oh, this is easy. This is easy. I don't know the 70 multiple choice questions in about 20 minutes.
Wow.
Which would have gave me another hour and 10 minutes to go through my 8 performance-based tests. So I think that's a wonderful suggestion.
Not a bad idea. Maybe something for folks to try. The Network Plus exam and the A Plus exam, and currently these are linear tests. So at least at the moment, you can hop around the exam to any question you would like. Some industry exams that are from different organizations are exams that are adaptive, which means when you answer the first question, the next is going to be different, so you're not able to jump around. But on the CompTIA, you can do that. So maybe that'd be something valid to try. But that's great. Congratulations on your Network Plus. Even after all that, you passed. Fantastic. And what's next then? You going to work on another certification?
Yep, I'm going to do Security Plus next, and if possible, I'm going to try to squeeze in a Wireshark certification in between. Well,
those are good. And then make sure you grab Laura Chappell's book. She and I did we went to Japan and Korea, and did a speaking engagements when we were there. It was way back in the day, but she is extremely knowledgeable. She just came out with a brand new Wireshark book. So I'm kind of plugging her stuff. I don't get anything special for that, but she sent me a copy. I loved it. She's incredibly knowledgeable about things at the packet level, and she's she's very funny. She's great to listen to. She writes just as well. So I highly recommend those as well.
Okay, I really appreciate the recommendation.
Well, thanks for the call, and if other questions come up about Security Plus, just let us know.
Okay, will do. Have a wonderful weekend.
You too. Well, we have the 832 area code that has been holding for a little bit there. Are you there, 832?
Yes, I am.
Yes, you are. What's your name? What's your question?
My name is Nick, and I had a quick question about switches.
Okay. What's that question?
When you're assigning IP addresses to switches, do both managed and unmanaged switches get assigned IP addresses?
And the idea, for those of you that are listening in and saying, wait a second, switches are layer 2, why would you put an IP address on a switch? That doesn't make any sense. It sort of doesn't make sense, but it sort of does. Last month, I think we talked about the differences between managed switches and unmanaged switches, but we didn't talk about this. There is, and this comes up a lot, especially if you were to, after your Network Plus, let's say you wanted to go and take something like a Cisco certification or Juniper certification or switch manufacturer certification. One of the things you have to know how to do is how to assign an IP address to the switch. And it is almost always in the context of using it for management, because in organizations, even something you might have in your home, you might have multiple switches in your house. If you've set up a big configuration, you don't want to have to grab your laptop and a console cable and walk over to the switch, walk to the building or up to the other floor of where the switch is, plug in, configure it, and then unplug and go about your business. You'd never get anything done if you walked everywhere and had to plug in a serial console cable every time. So many switches that are managed switches allow you to configure a management IP address that you can use to simply use SSH to the switch, and at the command line make your configurations just by sitting at your desk. You don't have to go anywhere. Now, in the context you mentioned, you have these managed switches that you would generally assign an IP address to. Unmanaged switches generally don't have an IP address set up for management, but sometimes they do. Because you may just get connectivity to turn it on, or a port on and off, but it may not have some of the more advanced management functionality. And usually when we're talking about assigning an IP address to a switch, that's what we're talking about, is the management port itself. Was there a particular context you had seen this being used in?
No, I was just working on creating a network topology for a class.
Yep. So here's the thing you have to watch out for. So that's the first basic thing, is the IP address usually used for management. But some switches have the ability to also perform tasks at layer 3, to be a layer 3 switch, if you will, which really means they're a router at that point, because we all know in our OSI model, layer 3 is routing. We're taking IP addresses and we're routing between different subnets. So sometimes in a switch, you can turn on a layer 3 functionality along with VLANs and be able to assign an IP address to a VLAN gateway, for instance, that then connects to a routed port, which then routes to a different port on the switch. Now, at that point, we're well outside the scope of Network Plus. For those of you listening in and thinking, oh, I got to know this for Network Plus, you really don't. But if you go past Network Plus and you start doing, like taking a class on networking, or you're doing a Cisco or Juniper type, they may have you configure management IP addresses, set up some VLANs, assign IP address to the VLAN, connect that IP address to a routed port, and route it to a different subnet that's connected somewhere else. Completely different use of IP addressing, because the management IP address and this whole VLAN routed IP addressing are two completely different things. They don't see each other. They're not connected to each other in any way, but you may have to know both of those, especially if, like you're taking a class on the topic. Mm-hmm. Is the class that you're taking one that gets into configuring the switch and setting up VLANs, that type of thing? Of simulation software to do that, or is this something you actually go in a lab and you plug in?
Yes, we're using simulation right now.
I think, and I've taken applications before, and I did simulator, want to buy equipment and put it into their house. And I think for the certifications and more advanced certifications, I don't think necessarily necessary. And a lot of the times when you're a network administrator and you're connecting to a device, you're connecting to it over its management IP address. You're never in the room where that switch is located. This past week at in my 9 to 5 Monday through Friday job, we were working on configuring devices that were in the Netherlands. I'm sitting in Florida, so I'm nowhere near the physical equipment, and most of the time I'm never near the physical equipment. So a simulation actually gives you more of a real world experience than having physical devices sitting in front of you, as crazy as that sounds. So I think you're on the right track with those pieces, and the IP addressing that you're using in the simulations. That sounds like a great class.
Mm-hmm.
Are you also
taking my call?
Let me ask another question for this class. Is it also rolling into doing a Network Plus certification as well?
Yes, I'm doing my network with that.
Well prepared. For the call-in lines, and I've set hours last week, but I don't have any others that are holding currently. So I'm going to go back to the chat room and see some of the topics in here and work my way back up and see those pieces. Some of you are saying that some of the sound is breaking up. It's on these links I have, and of course I'm saying to YouTube. YouTube is and link, so it's kind of stream how things are going. I do have information that I can. In fact, I can show you what I see with YouTube. And up and have it on YouTube. Here's the tube of view. Make this full screen. One moment, please. I have a live event view here that I can, oh, of course. Remember we have that video problem? It's not working. So I can't show you this. But it shows me that I have a great stream. The health is good. In fact, I don't have any alerts showing me that anything has been badly dropped on the way there. So I don't think it's my connection in this particular case, but one never knows with these types of things. You can certainly see the replay. That might help you as well to be able to work from that. Most home routers are layer 2 and layer 3 devices. Indeed, most of them are doing NATing. Most of them have their stateful firewalls. They may even have IPS intrusion functionality built into it. We're going to, almost had that video. It flickered back up for a moment to show you that piece. It knew I was jumping over to it, and that's why it all went black again. They often have, some of them have content filtering inside of them. Beat it there. See, it says good. Content filtering inside. So you've got those, see, that functionality. So you can set up URL filtering inside of those devices. Some of them can interact with dynamic DNS services so that you can give your router a name, and no matter what IP address is assigned to that router by the ISP, you can always access that device through its name. That might be useful if you are providing some type of service on the inside. If you're running your own web server or running your own gaming server or file transfer server, that's very useful as well. There's so much those little boxes do. I've noticed a lot of people are getting faster internet connections now. So we went from these 1 megabit lines with DSL. Now we've got much faster DSL at 10 to 20 megabits per second or faster. I've got the option on mine to turn it up to 100 megabits per second on the download if I wanted to be able to do that coming inbound to me. But to be able to support those higher speeds, those relatively higher speeds, you have to make sure that your firewall, your wireless router that you're plugging into that can support it. So if you find that you're moving to a faster internet connection and your speed tests just aren't getting faster, it may be time to upgrade your router, your access device as well, because perhaps it was never designed to go at those particular speeds. And 100 megabit is for those kinds of devices. A few years ago, that was pretty fast. Those are really designed for the lowest of the lowest end. You almost have to get the higher end business class, or at least the higher end models of those to be able to support those speeds. I think the higher wireless speeds are really helping there because it has to support the wireless speeds. I always get a wireless router that supports gigabit ports on the back. And even though those it's very difficult for those to support those gigabit speeds, I still am able to at least take advantage of as fast as it can go. And I've got a different network here that has, it's hard to see from where I'm sitting, but I've got a gigabit switch down here. You can see, can you see the lights? You can sort of see them across there flickering, the blinky lights. So I've got almost everything connected via gigabit, and then it all goes back to the internet connection, all separately switched. And one of these days I'll get redundant internet in here, so we're able to take advantage of that as well. A lot of pieces on those to pull from. Let's see if I've got other ideas that are in here, other things that have come through. I think we've got most of the questions answered. We're going to quickly go back to the phones, see if anyone's holding. We're good there. One of the pieces that I like to do every month is step through the list of questions to see what's there. And we got really this month the biggest diversity of questions. It was almost disappointing because I'm not able to get to all of them. Usually there's a lot of overlap. It's the same question over and over and over and over again. This month we got such a nice mix. So I'm going to have a lot of things that I can go back and work with on next month's study group. And then, of course, I'll get all your new questions coming in as well. That's another way to work with those pieces. Well, I think we've come to the end of our live study group. Your questions have been fantastic. Your calls were great this month. The chat room, you've been fantastic. Thanks for playing our pop quiz games, and thanks for keeping me straight on what was going on with the stream this this month. I think we had a pretty good stream. I think it was maintained itself perhaps even better than last. And I made some changes here to try to make sure that things would work as smoothly as possible as well. I want this to be a good experience for everyone. Thanks everybody for joining us. Thanks for watching the stream. Thanks for sending all your questions in. Your support of the study guides and your support of those live pieces have been great. There is a lot more to do with these study groups. I hope to do even more in the future. So until next month, we'll see you on the next Professor Messer Network Plus study group. Well, thanks everyone. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for the live stream. Thanks for all those pieces. It's now time for the lunch. It's now time to see what else is on the net. I will do editing. I'll get this out. I think today I'll be in the studio all day, so I should be able to get it edited. I usually let it render overnight because it takes a good chunk of time, and I'm usually doing other things during the day. So by tomorrow morning, I should have 2 files that I can upload to YouTube and get all the things posted on that piece. Thanks everybody for the being in the chat room. You guys are great, keeping me honest, and I will get the new dates for next month up as soon as possible. I need to look at my calendar for A Plus and Network Plus, and I promise the whole Security Plus thing's kind of coming to a head. You folks are beating me about the head and neck to get something like that done. So I need to figure out, maybe during the summer I can squeeze something in. We'll see. I'm not making any promises, but we'll see all of you guys later. Thanks again.